Let's see if folks are coming in. Good morning, folks. We'll get started in a couple of minutes, just waiting for people to file in.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, folks. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. I'm Basil Hewitt. I'm an engineer with the sanitation districts. And this morning, we're going to have a real lively tour, virtual tour with Genesis Rodriguez. Genesis, turn on your camera. She's a public affairs specialist, and she knows everything you'd ever want to know about the sanitation districts, but we're afraid to ask. And we also have Habib Karat. He's a gentleman. Habib, turn on your camera so people can see your lovely face. Habib is the gentleman in charge of our Puente Hills MRF. And I still don't see Habib, but I guess he's out there someplace. He's being camera shy this morning. And Habib is our subject matter expert.
I turned my video on. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can definitely see you now.
See you. Yeah. And anything you'd ever want to know about our Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility, Habib is the gentleman in charge of that facility with a team of folks that help out, a team of folks that get it done every day, 6 days a week. With that, let me a couple of housekeeping deal. If you have any questions, put it in the Q&A, and we will get to that. In the appropriate time in the virtual tour. If you want to ask your question, you can also raise your hand and we will unmute you, and then we can hear your voice. With that, let me turn it over to Genesis Rodriguez, and she will take it away. Go ahead, Genesis.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a pretty cool conversation, a great conversation about what happens to your trash once you're done with it. So last week, if you joined us last week, we talked about what happened to everything you flushed down the toilet and everything that went, all the water that went down your drains in your homes. So now we're going to talk about exactly what happens once that garbage truck leaves your neighborhood. But to start off, I want to tell you a little bit about ourselves. The sanitation districts, the Los Angeles County Sanitation District serve over 5.6 million people in LA County. That's 78 out of the 88 cities in LA County, as far north as Lancaster, as far south as Long Beach. And so our governance, our board of directors is made up of 24 districts. And so each district is composed of a mayor. It's usually a mayor or a board of supervisor for unincorporated areas and cities that make up those districts. So our mission is really the driving factor of all of this, what drives us. Our mission is to protect public health and the environment through innovative and cost-effective wastewater and solid waste management. And in doing so, convert this waste into resources such as recycled water, energy, and recycled materials. So last week, we went over how we convert this waste into recycled water and energy. This week, we're going to talk a little bit more about that recycled materials and how we get energy from that as well. So our story starts way back in the 1920s. Our agency began, it was formed by these three men that you see here. You have this one on the right, who was our first chief engineer. The one in the middle was the chair of board of supervisors at the time. And then the one on the left is very important because he's a legislator who helped draft the Sanitation District Acts and supported it in the state capitol. So this was the beginning of it all. And we helped manage wastewater for the county. And we were so great at it that later in 1949, post World War II, there was a big population boom, and LA County was dealing with air pollution. And so people were getting rid of their trash in backyard incinerators. And so air pollution became a problem. And so LA County was going to, well, they wanted to ban backyard incinerators, and the sanitation districts found a resolution. So we would be able to help, we would offer residents a cost-effective way of getting rid of their waste, and it would be environmentally friendly. So and that's my dog. Okay, so fast forward all these years later, not only do we treat over 400 million gallons of sewage per day and operate 11 wastewater treatment plants, we also manage a fifth of LA County's trash. And so here you have our map that shows our different solid waste facilities. But today we're going to highlight the facilities that we have in Puente Hills, located right by the Puente Hills. It's on the corner of the 605 and the 60 freeway. So let's take a drive and see. This is a drive going up from Workman Mill Road. And if you're driving up here, you'll notice this luscious mountain filled with a bunch of nice trees. That's our Puente Hills landfill that closed in 2013. This is a view from the top of the landfill. And so the sanitation districts still own and operate this landfill. We have gas collection systems in place so that we can capture the gas there at the landfill. And we are also currently working with LA County Parks and Recreation to turn this landfill into a beautiful park soon. So in this same property, while you're at the top, you drive a little further down and you can see the star of today's show, which is the Puente Hills Materials Recovery Facility. And so here at the top, you'll notice all these skylights, and I'm pointing them out now because we're gonna see them again once we go inside. So let's go inside. We're gonna drive back down this hill and a little animation. So let's just pretend we're the garbage truck and we're making our way to the materials recovery facility. So here we are. First, when we get there, we get to the little scale house. This is where all trucks are weighed once they go in, because we charge by the tonnage and the type of waste that you bring inside. So in this case, Basil's driving, he's the chauffeur. So we're here driving in. So this is the first view that you get of the MRF when you drive in. There's a lot going on. And here to your left, you have these beautiful bales ready to be sold. And if we were here in person, we would be walking up here in the mezzanine. We'd be walking up in the mezzanine and we'd be able to see everything from up there. But it's pretty cool because now that we're virtual, we're going to be able to see a lot more and go into a lot more detail. And hopefully it'll be a better experience. I think it will. So this is our Disneyland. This is trash Disneyland. Everywhere you look, there's different kinds of trash. There are different numbers to sort, to distinguish the different types of stations that there are. So we're going to try to go over the main ones. I know a lot of people are obsessed with garbage trucks, so I had to put this garbage truck video. Sometimes there are kids watching, so this is the garbage truck. Here it is. And remember, this is your blue bin material, because this is the recyclable section. So bam, there it is. So the refuse is unloaded, or if you're a mom and pop shop or you have a construction job going on at home, you can bring that refuse too. We also take yard waste, and pretty soon we're going to be taking yard waste with food waste. I don't know if you want to make a quick plug for that, Habib, or if we'll talk about it later.
Sure. Yeah, this is a really exciting program. There's a Senate Bill 1383 that's going to be requiring cities to do more with organics recovery. And at the Puente Hills MRF, we're going to be ready starting January 1st, 2022, per the SB 1383, to help our member cities meet their goals. And what we'll be accepting is the green waste that comes from the residential neighborhoods. The homes would be able to place their food waste in bags into their green waste container, and the Puente Hills MRF will be allowed, we will be able to accept that type of combination of food waste and green waste. The beauty of what we have at the MRF is that we do have both those programs, the green waste recycling program and the food waste recycling program, which I know you're going to be talking about, Genesis. So when we separate the green waste from the food waste, we'd be able to also recycle the food waste that's coming in. So we're really, really excited about this program and being able to help out our member cities with it.
And we got our first question, Habib and Genesis. Quick question, how big is the facility? How big is Puente Hills MRF?
It's 217,000 square feet. You can fit 3 jumbo jets in this building.
Thank you.
3, whoa. And we receive, I forgot to mention, we receive over the capacity is to receive over 4,000 tons of trash per day, and we're currently receiving a little bit over 1,000. And Habib, while you're on that subject of the yard waste, why do we have to separate the yard waste?
Well, again, in California, there's all these regulations for recycling, and to be able to meet, the AB 939 that we had in the past, green waste was recycling green waste was a big portion of helping the cities meet that requirement.
Okay, cool. Basil, are we ready?
The only other question is, or how many people work at the Puente Hills MRF or material recovery facility?
Habib's our expert.
Habib?
Yeah,
Who
so
is
we
that?
have permanent employees and we have temporary employees. Permanent employees, we have about 25 districts employees, and the temporary employees, they can vary. And the beauty with that is, depending on the markets, depending on the demand, depending on the tonnage that we get, we can increase and decrease the temps accordingly. And currently we have about 35 temporary employees.
All right, we can continue, Genesis.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so here we have, we saw the recyclables before they are baled, and so we're going to see a little further down the line, they're going to go up this conveyor belt, and then they're going to take a journey of its own. So what happens to your trash? The question that we're trying to answer today, and also what happens at the materials recovery facility. So most of the recyclables, remember, everything that you put in the blue bin, most of those recyclables are shipped overseas. And so we have recycle markets, China being the main one, and a lot of the neighboring countries. So this, I had a coworker describe it as the perfect marriage, because a lot of countries around the world receive a lot of goods from China. And so you have all these shipping containers coming in, and instead of having about 40% of them, 40 to 60% of them go back empty, it made a lot of sense to fill those containers with recyclables to send back over there. So it was like there were no wasted trips. However, China began to toughen their standards because there were a lot of impurities in the recyclable bales that they were receiving that had a lot of environmental impacts. And so they started to toughen their standards, and soon they had the China ban, which was a series of regulations that place stricter limits on the types of recyclables that they were receiving. So this had a huge impact, not only in the US, but countries around the world. In the US alone, there was a 72% reduction in the tons that were being exported. So we went from in 2016, we went from about 17.6 million tons that were being exported, with China receiving about 80% of it. And then in 2019, that number dropped to 5.6 million tons, with now China receiving only about 22%. And also, I need to mention that the other neighboring countries also followed suit. So they also started having stricter load requirements. So anything that didn't go, anything that wasn't shipped to be recycled is landfilled. And that's the other part of the story. And so here we have a quick video of one of these trucks leaving our MRF.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, no.
So here we have a truck, one of our trucks that's leaving our MRF, and you can see it's carrying all the trash that didn't make the cut. And of course, we will cover the top of the truck so that none of the debris falls while it's being transported. Okay, so before I go into what we do with all the recyclables, I want to throw in my quick little PSA that I love to talk about any chance I get. It's our free household hazardous and electronic waste collection events. So we have different collection events throughout LA County, a different city every weekend. We have a permanent location in Signal Hill, right by Long Beach, EDCO, open second and fourth Saturdays of the month. But even better, so here's what we receive. We'll take paints, paint thinners, fluorescent light tubes, batteries, old electronics like your TVs, your any used tablets you don't want anymore, sharps, any prescription drugs you want to get rid of. All of that, you can take it to one of our collection events. And to find a collection event near you, go to lacsd.org/HHW. And I'll give you a heads up, we're just approving the new events for the next year. So pretty shortly, you're going to see that website have even more locations for the next year. And the city of LA also has a few permanent locations in the city. But this is a great, great program to keep toxic trash away from the trash. All right. Now going back to the automated sorting line at the materials recovery facility. We had planned this. This was in the works for a while, but the China ban definitely sped things up. And let me give you my little Willy Wonka type tour or overview of this materials recovery facility. Okay, so that's a short little overview. And as you can see, there are a lot of moving parts that make up our automated sorting line. And so we're going to go through the steps. So first we have the pre-sort. We have the pre-sorting machine. So we have this. Habib, do you know what it's called? This just slipped my mind. Is it a crane or? So we have this machine with the crane tool that
It's called a
puts,
materials handler.
okay, materials handler, I was not thinking of that one at all. Okay, so the materials handler puts all this waste, right, the recycled goods, it puts it in this pre-sorting machine. And what this pre-sorting machine does is it has this drum that helps kind of flatten the waste out so that it's easier to sort through. So some goes over, some goes under, and it kind of makes it easier to go through. You see staff right here that's doing pre-sort check and just removing any large items that don't belong there or any items that could potentially harm our machinery, such as like cables that could get stuck there and such. So that's the pre-sort process. And so now we're going to start our official step-by-step of what this automated sorting line does. So bag breaker, it does exactly what the name says it does. It when the trash goes in, it goes through a conveyor belt and it breaks any bags. From there, we have the material screen. Now the material screen is pretty neat because you have these rotating heads right here. And so what happens a lot through this automated sorting line is lighter material is separated from heavier material. So in this case, all of the lighter material like cardboards, like empty, all the water bottles, detergent jugs, all of that stuff is very light and it just kind of surfs through the top, while heavier particles such as glass goes down, falls through, it's crushed, and then that is sorted separately and then recycled. So here you have a quick little video how the materials recovery the material screen works. And let me just play that again. If you notice, you can just kind of see like all those light items just kind of surfing their way through the top. You even have this little detergent jug flying over there. So then after the material screen, you have the air separator that pretty much does the same thing again, separating some of the heavier materials, like some of these containers that have liquids in them or shoes, separating that from everything else. And then we move on to the polishing screens, which pretty much separate from here. We get two separate 2D items and the 3D items. So in the 2D items, you consider like cardboard and paper, whereas 3D items, you're talking your aluminum cans, your water bottles, the detergent jugs, milk jugs, all of those other 3D containers you can think of. So we're going to talk about the metal separator that has different, two different parts. So here we have the one with, this one has the big magnet that is pretty much able to separate the ferrous metals. And then from there, it goes to another machine. It's called the eddy current separator. And what the eddy current separator does is it has electromagnetic rays that help sort out the aluminum in that, within that way. So all the aluminum cans, that's where they would get separated out. So now that we have the metal separated from this, from the 3D materials, this leaves us with all the plastics, right? So the water bottles, again, the jugs, I'm forgetting one, mainly water bottles, jugs. So from there, we have optical sorters for each process. So in the paper process, we have an optical sorter to sort out the cardboard and the paper. And then in the 3D side, we have an optical plastic sorter that helps us differentiate between the different types of plastic because they go in their own different different containers. They'll go in different bales. So the water bottles will be separate from the plastic juice bottles or like the detergent jugs. So this is a picture of our optical sorter, and this is how it works. It uses infrared light to detect the type of waste it is. And it has little air jets at the bottom of the optical sorter. It has little air jets that just pump it up and help separate the waste like that. So let me play this video again. If you notice here, I tried putting it in slow motion. The cardboard, it's like, bam, you see that? It just shoots up. It's really, really, really cool. So with plastics have like different kinds of like thickness to it. So that's how the infrared light is able to detect which one should be sorted where. All right, so moving on, this is, I think, the more popular part of the entire automated sorting line. It's this robotic sorter, which is really cool. It does a post check of all the work that the other parts of the sorting line did. And it just does a post check. If you see, it's removing any item that's not a plastic water bottle. And what's really cool about this is not only is it 4 times faster than a human being that doesn't stop, it's just nonstop, but it also gets even better with time because it learns from its own, I guess you can say it learns from its own experience. So it gets even better. So then after that, we also have people that do a post sort. And then after that, we have the recyclables. Now that they're in their different categories or different containers here, they're able to go up this conveyor belt and then be baled according with the rest of their group. So this is our baling machine. I'm not sure if that's what you call it, but baling machine, I'm gonna say. And then here you have the bales of paper, the bales of cardboard. And look at that beautiful bale of aluminum cans right there. So now these bales are ready to be sold off. Now, moving on to another portion, another service that we provide at the Puente Hills Materials Recovery Facility is food waste. But before we get into food waste, just a little bit of backstory. So LA County generates 21 million tons of waste per year. And of that 21 million tons, about 9 million tons is buried in landfills. Of that 9 million tons that's buried in landfills, a third of that landfilled waste is organic material. So that yard waste and food waste. So food waste that's disposed of landfills can release methane to the environment if that landfill is not properly managed. So the state of California recently passed a few laws to require cities to create programs to divert this organic material from landfills. So put programs in place to help residents and businesses divert this waste. So the goal was to have a 50% reduction in landfilled organic waste by the year 2020, and then a 75% reduction in landfilled organic waste by 2025. And because we're always looking for solutions, even back when we started in the late 40s, we were helping LA County and our residents find a solution to getting rid of their waste. The sanitation districts can also help cities and businesses with their food waste disposal. So we have a food waste program here at the sanitation districts at the MRF that can help you. So let's talk a little bit about this food waste program and how it works. So let's first start with the unprocessed food waste. So I mentioned, the garbage truck in the beginning that we came in. Some of them drop off recyclables, some drop off yard waste, others drop off food waste. So here is an example, a beautiful example of source separated food waste that we collect. So acceptable source separated food waste will have no more than like 10% impurities within that load. So if you notice here, it's really all food waste, with the exception of these little small cardboard, but the majority, definitely more than 90%, is food waste. So this would be an example of an acceptable load. So this food waste is then processed at our materials recovery facility. We process 35 tons of food waste a day. And this is our DOTA system that is able to convert this food waste into the slurry. We have the hopper here that has a bag breaker and pushes that food waste to the bio separators here that grind up the food waste, turn it into a slurry. And then here we have our slurry tanks that store that slurry, and then our water tanks in case we need to dilute the slurry a bit. So let's watch a video of our first load. The first load that happened a few years ago, was it 2016, Habib? Or no, it was later than that, right? Like 2019?
Yeah, about 2019.
Okay.
Yes, it was about 2019.
Okay, cool. So this was the first load. We had already been accepting food waste before 2019, but in 2019, we had this whole DOTA system put in place. So if you notice here, food waste is being dumped in, and then you have the hopper is going to turn on. You see it churning, it's breaking the bags, and then it's being sent to these bio separators here to the right. A good analogy is comparing it to a garlic presser, which you're going to see in a bit. So when it goes through these bio separators, it kind of presses the food waste, the inorganic materials. And if you're thinking about a garlic presser, is like the skin of the garlic, right? So any inorganic material is sorted out in the machine, and then it presses it. So it goes through it twice. So on this one, it has even finer holes. So the food waste that you get out of that is now, okay, that's the inorganic that's left out. And then it goes through a secondary, and you'll notice here the food waste is a lot finer. And so from here, it's turned into this slurry that looks like a Coca-Cola Slurpee, but not as it doesn't look as good, but Coca-Cola Slurpee was the first thing I thought of. So now that we have the slurry, we put it in the slurry tanks. The slurry is then pumped into these tanker trucks, as you see here, which is kind of cool because when I saw these tanker trucks, or when you see them out in the street, I always thought it was always just gasoline that was being transported. But in this case, it could also be food waste slurry. So This food waste slurry is then transported to the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant in Carson. And here we have, here we have our slurry tanks here for receiving at the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. And so this is where we go to the next step of this food waste recycling process. So what we do with the processed food waste is we put it in these anaerobic digesters along with the solids that we have recovered from the wastewater process. So the wastewater treatment process. So all the solids that are left over from the wastewater treatment process is put into these anaerobic digesters. With this food waste now, it's heated up to at about 96 degrees. It's kept there for like 15 to 16 days. And we have these microorganisms that feed on these solids and organic material. And from there, we get biogas. So from there, it goes to our energy facility at the joint plant. So we produce energy from this biogas. We produce 20 megawatts of energy, which is enough to produce 20,000 homes. And so now that we have surplus biogas, and also let me mention too, with just a little bit of food waste that we add, we were able to double the amount of methane that we produce in these digesters. So now with our food waste program, we'll have surplus biogas. And so we created a pipeline to take you from these digesters down the street. And so you see here, the middle one is where the pipeline goes. We make a right over here. We make a right over here and we see our biogas conditioning system. So this biogas conditioning system takes this biogas from 60% to more than 90% methane, which is able to turn this into vehicle fuel. So this is a picture of our biogas conditioning system. Right next to it, we have the natural gas storage tanks. And then right next to that, we have our fueling station where we have it. This is pretty cool to me because it's kind of, one minute we were just talking about food waste, and now we're talking about how this food waste literally gets turned into vehicle fuel. So these cars that run on natural gas, it's running on our food waste. It's pretty awesome. I can't get over it. So we're processing about 300 tons a day per slurry. These are our beloved customers that bring their processed food waste to us. So of the 300 tons, that's equivalent to about 2,000 gallons of gasoline per day. But we're currently expanding our system because we expect to be receiving even more food waste with new California state mandates. So we're expanding our system to be able to receive about 600 tons per day, which will be the equivalent of 5,700 gallons of gasoline per day. So if you have like a regular car, that will fill it up. We'll be able to fill it up 570 times about. So we went over how we generate electricity from it. We can charge cars. We have a car charging station at the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. This one is at our main headquarters in Whittier. We have the vehicle fueling stations. And then in the future, we can also inject it into the natural gas pipelines. So this kind of concludes our story on how special the Puente Hills Materials Recovery Facility is. It helps us be one of the biggest producers of green energy. If you notice here, we generate about 28 megawatts a year, and we only take up about 23 megawatts for some of our facilities. So when you add that with the 20 megawatts that we're producing from wastewater management, 30 megawatts from refuse to energy, any surplus energy that we have goes back to the grid. And with that, that concludes today's tour. I hope you enjoyed the virtual tour, but obviously being in person is also really cool and it has its own benefits as well. So we look forward to welcome you into our facility soon.
All right, thank you,
and with
Jen.
that, sorry, if you have any questions or you want to know more about source separated food waste or the food waste slurry, I'm going to leave this contact information up here for a little bit so that you can contact the true pros Habib Karat, and William Chen.
All right, thank you, Genesis. A great tour of the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. We have a number of questions. The first question is from Professor Melissa Michelson. Why did it differ with the number of employees, temporary employees? Population doesn't increase or decrease that fast to produce more or less trash. Habib, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, so the sanitation district's facilities can accept waste from, mom and pop haulers that are cleaning their garages, all the way to the, commercial haulers in LA County. We do not go and collect trash from residents or from the commercial industry. We just have our facilities. They're welcome to come to us. So we don't control the streams of trash or recyclables that come into our facilities. It's really dependent on the haulers themselves. And haulers could change their routes, can decide to go to different places. Certainly, depending on the habits of the residences, trash could vary, recyclables tonnage could vary. So depending on that variation that we have no control over, we need to have the ability to react to that and be able to still continue providing the service of recycling at a cost-efficient manner.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, and also the material recovery facility is geared to, if there are different things that now have value can be recycled, we can ramp up with more folks. Like Habib mentioned that, I guess in January, you're going to have a new program where we're going to separate food waste from green waste. And that's going to require more personnel, I would imagine.
Of course, yeah, with every additional program, with every new equipment we get, the labor requirements change.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to let Nancy unmute herself. And she raised her hand, and see if we can get Nancy to Genesis. Could you unmute Nancy so she can ask her question live?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nancy, there you go.
Yes, if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, my question is, what happens to the digestate that's left over after the methane's been produced? That's my first question. And my second question is, why is none of the slurry or even an earlier stage of that material composted so that it can be returned to the soil from which it actually originally came?
Oh, that is perfect. I have slides for that.
Oh, good.
Good. Should I share that? Yeah,
If you want to
yeah,
share.
or do you want to just take it? Okay.
I'll just take it. So
Okay.
basically, after the material in the digester is broken down, we get gas from it, as Genesis mentioned, biogas. But what's left over, we take that out, we dewater that, and then we truck it off-site, where we typically compost it with agricultural waste. So we reuse that as well. So we create soil amendment. You had another question, I think, Nancy. What was the second question?
Yes, my question is, because an alternative is to doing the anaerobic process is to do the aerobic process of composting, which creates material which returns things like nitrogen and phosphorus to the soils from which they originally came. I mean, a carrot grows and pulls those chemicals out of the soil. Its remains end up, as you said, as digestate instead of the kind of compost that we all want to improve our vegetable gardens.
And we do compost it. We do.
Do you want me to answer that, Basil?
Yeah, we do compost it. Yes, and use it.
So Nancy, like Basil mentioned, the biosolids as a result of the digesters is being composted, and it is being used on farms. So in essence, the food waste slurry that is going into the digesters is being reused, as you're saying, in terms of answering your question on that. But there is also food waste that is composted with green waste at certain facilities. However, the amount of food waste that has to be recovered under SB 1383 is so large that there aren't enough composting facilities to do it outside of anaerobic digestion. So you're going to need both of those programs to help assist in diverting the amount of food we're talking about. Now, certain green waste facilities that compost are not permitted to allow food waste on their sites, and there's others that are. So obviously, the ones that do will allow the food waste with the green waste, and not being experts in that field, I'm assuming there's a certain ratio that they need between the green waste and food waste. So anaerobic digestion is necessary to be able to meet the requirements of the Senate bills.
Okay, so if I may continue, does the digestate that then goes out to farms, is that organic in any way? Has it been tested for, I don't know, heavy metals?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole slew of regulations that fall under biosolids in terms of how they're composted, air quality measures, the toxicity, metals, fecal matter, salmonella. There's everything's tested before it's placed on farms.
Okay, and then one more question, or maybe a comment. It's my understanding that LA County allows composting without it being covered and all that sort of stuff. If the composting area is smaller than 1,000 square feet. And why hasn't it been considered to do composting like in parks and on school grounds in an official capacity, so that the trucks don't have to be driving, from Pasadena to where you guys are, and then to Carson and so on, and creating all those greenhouse gases. And I'm sure those trucks don't get really great mileage. So has there been any consideration of doing composting of kitchen waste on a more local basis?
I think that's more a jurisdiction, city by city decision. What we're tasked to do, I think, as Genesis and Habib mentioned, we don't collect the waste, but when it comes to us, we're trying to do what is environmentally makes sense environmentally wise. So when food waste comes in, we try to get it in, we get it in an anaerobic digester because that's completely sealed, and the gases that would create problems in the atmosphere are completely captured, and we generate power off it. And then what's left over, we create compost with we mix it with agricultural waste. So yeah, that's really on a city by city basis. We don't do composting for residences or communities. Just what haulers bring to us, we try to handle in the most cost-effective and environmental way. Thank you, Nancy. I want to get on to some additional questions. There's a question from Professor Melissa Mickelson again. Isn't it easier to export our trash to another part of our country as opposed to, I guess she's saying, shipping it overseas? I guess I could take a shot at that. So if there are places within the United States that want the recovered material, Habib and his folks will work on finding markets for the recovered material. So the green waste, it's composted. He mentioned that it's composted. It's taken offsite and it's composted. And if there are people who want to utilize the recovered material, plastics and metals in the United States, we would surely do that. But Habib, I'm not sure there are many folks that take that stuff throughout the United States. Is that correct?
So we do have domestic markets for some of the plastics that we sell over here versus shipping overseas. But we have to be careful when you say, are you talking about trash? Or are you talking about commodities? Because commodities are not trash, right? We are recycling those. We're shipping them to markets where they can reuse that material and obviously produce goods and then further send it back to us. So what we're sending overseas, at least, from what we produce in the sanitation districts, is very clean commodities that we ship overseas. I think maybe you're referring to what Genesis said in terms of, the strict regulations in China and other countries, because commodities that were sent overseas were very contaminated with trash. And a lot of those facilities weren't able to send their material. At the sanitation districts, we've never had a problem with exporting our material and people buying our material because of the standards and the quality that we produce. So with that, we want to make sure that, we want to do it cost effectively. So ultimately, we're helping the environment and we're saving money for the residents of our member cities.
And Habib, while you're at it, someone has a question about glass recycling. How do you recycle glass at the MRF? How do you do that?
Yes, and Genesis again touched upon that a little bit with the initial screens where you saw the cardboard surfing over. So the glass will fall between, the gaps of those screens. They get crushed and they fall into a separate conveyor belt where glass is taken to a certain area in our MRF where it is shipped to a facility that further processes and cleans that glass. So yes, glass is a commodity that we recover, and it's further cleaned at facilities outside of the MRF.
Okay, and the next question is, do the bags have to be compostable? I guess the bags that come into the material recovery facility.
So I think that's in reference to maybe the food waste, because Genesis was talking about how, the bags get removed. The bags have to be removed from the slurry, because ultimately this slurry is going into our digesters. So no, they don't have to be compostable.
And the next question is from Richard. How long does 20,000 homes get energy? I think it was referring to the power plant at the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. We produce the equivalent of 20 megawatt or produce 20 megawatts of electricity or energy, and that's enough for 20,000 homes. But most of that power, almost all of that power is used at the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. That power is used to run that our largest wastewater treatment plant. And then Rob has three questions. First question, many cash register receipts are allegedly covered with BHT. Is this type of paper recyclable? I'm not sure what BHT is.
There's a real reason why we brought Habib in here.
Yeah. So basically cash register receipts, is that paper recyclable?
Yes, as long as it's paper, all the paper that we receive is recovered unless it has, lamination on it. And then, at the destination of where the paper bales are sent, they have a sophisticated processing system to recycle the paper back into paper, and it's, to remove ink and clean any of the material that's on the paper for it to be able to be recycled.
Other question from Rob: is shredded paper recyclable? Is shredded paper recyclable?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then the third question, supposedly small plastics are not recyclable, like straws or detached bottle caps or plastic utensil or small take-home containers, since they may jam up the machine. Now I place all my small plastic in a larger plastic container, like the Costco blueberry or strawberry plastic container. I guess is my effort worth it in trying to recycle small plastic? I think that's the bottom line question.
The answer is yes, but it depends on which city you live and where your material ends up. So, fortunately at the Puente Hills MRF, we have a sophisticated system like Genesis showed you, where we have multiple optical sorters, and each optical sorter is dedicated to a certain type of plastic. And to give you an example, polypropylene PP, which are some of the small kind of like yogurt containers, our optical sorts do separate that, and it all gets recovered. So if your material is going to a MRF that doesn't have the sophistication that we have, then maybe what you're putting in the blue bin is not recycled. And what happens is jurisdictions will send you a list of what you can or cannot recycle in your blue bin, and that's a reflection again of where their material is going to be recovered at the MRF that they're contracted with.
And this one is for Genesis. Kathleen asks, are the videos of your webinar posted online? And if so, could you please post the link in the chat?
Yes, they are. They should be up by Monday, and I will put the link to our YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe because you'll get notifications for all the other tours that we do throughout the year. So I'll put the link to our YouTube channel on here.
And this is my favorite question. This is for Habib. What is the weirdest piece of trash you've seen in the facility?
I think we all have an answer to that. It's a different answer.
Habib?
I don't know if there's such a thing, because trash is trash, and it's got its beauty in its own way. If you're in the industry and you work it every day, it's remarkable where we were, decades ago, and where we are today, and what we've achieved. And somebody could look at their PET bottle and think of it as trash, and I look at a PET bottle.
Okay. Wow.
That was a very safe answer. I was expecting
But Habib is the trash man. He loves trash.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say trash, recyclables. And my bad, Habib. Recyclable. Did we lose Habib? I just want to.
I think he's still here. No, yeah, we lost Habib.
Oh, he better get back on there. All right, we have a question from Douglas. Douglas said, great tour, enjoyed watching from Ireland. Why the preference for landfill of surplus over incineration? I think if I can answer, that's a community choice. We, back in the 80s, our agency had plans to build a number of refuse to energy facilities, but the community, a lot of the community didn't really go for those or appreciate those. So that's why there was that, but I wouldn't say it's a preference of landfill over incineration. I think the preference in California is try to recycle, and just whenever a product is bought onto the market, think about what's going to happen to it. And so it's really thinking in terms of a circular economy, and making sure that we're trying to landfill less as much as possible. Then
Hey, he's back.
Oh, Habib is back. Thank you. And I'm not sure 20 per day or 20 per year. I'm not. Oh,
I think he's
Sorry about that. There was some technical difficulties.
Okay, no problem. So Richard's question about the, I guess the energy, 20 megawatts, that's an instantaneous power source. So that's instantaneous. 20 megawatts is what the plant puts out. So that, I guess that's the unit. All right, next question is from Rob. How clean do plastic containers need to be before they're considered contamination? I guess the question is, how clean should your plastic containers have to be?
It's very important to not have food waste, in your plastics, because that is considered contamination. And just imagine if there's, peanut butter left in a jar, and it goes through our system. And then when it gets to the baler is compressing, right, the plastics to make it into that cube shaped form that Genesis showed you. And then that peanut butter smears out, right? And now it contaminates, not just that one jar, but all the plastics surrounding it. So, just be cognizant about, if you can clean them to a certain extent, do that. But make sure that there isn't, food in your containers.
Okay. Next question. How does single stream recycling work? Our trash service does not pick up recyclables separately.
So that goes back to the jurisdiction and how they want to meet the regulations, whether they'll have a blue bin program for you or not. So that would be a question to go back to your city and see why they don't have a blue bin program, and if the recyclables included with your trash is going to a facility that has the capability of removing your recyclables from the trash.
And there's another question from Nancy. What percentage of your incoming recyclables end up in the landfill or can't be recycled? So I guess what percentage gets recycled?
So with the sophisticated system that Genesis showed you, our efficiency factors are, anywhere between 95 to 99% recovery. So that's how good the optical sort, the robot that you saw, all the technology that we have in this facility. So if you bring us, 1 ton of recoverable material, and when I say that, I mean you're not providing trash into your blue bin, it's really recoverable material, then we can sort out anywhere between 95 to 99% of that material.
Okay. This is from Joanne. May we see the last slide again? I was unable to write down all the information. Great. Genesis is so great in getting that stuff up. All right. Next question is from Douglas. How do you handle polystyrene? No one seems to like it. And there's a frown in this question.
Yeah, we do not recover that. Again, depending on the different MRFs, there might be some facilities that do recover that, but we don't.
Okay. And then Patricia asks, what happens to the waste from commercial businesses like grocery stores that have overaged products, food that's still in jar or cans?
So the food waste processing facility that Genesis showed you at the Puente Hills MRF accepts material from supermarkets, from warehouses, and they come, in packaged material, cardboard, plastic containers. So we accept all that material, and some of it is sorted out by hand before it is processed through our food waste equipment. And some of it can be handled through the equipment itself. Okay.
And I guess I didn't really get the gist of Rob's question earlier, so he asked it again. He said his question wasn't focused on food, but other substances. The question is whether we should be attempting to thoroughly clean plastic containers of chemicals and such, and washing them down the drain versus sending them to recycling half clean. And this is where Genesis can do a shameless plug for the HHW program.
Yes, none of those chemicals should ever go down your drain. We have our free household hazardous waste and electronic waste collection events throughout LA County, where you can take all of these cleaning household items, where we will take them for free. There's no limit to how much you can take. So our suggestion would be, disposing of it in a separate container, and then you can put that in the recycling. You can put your empty jug in the recycling container, but make sure all the chemicals and stuff, you put them separately so that you can take it to one of our roundups.
Yeah, so if it's something that you think would be harmful, household hazardous waste, paints and the like, bring it to a roundup. It takes 5-10 minutes to drive in and out. We'll take it, properly dispose of it, and protect the environment. Okay, Rob's question again. It says a Tide lid, Ajax liquid detergent, toilet bowl cleaners. Pardon?
That can all be taken
to HHW roundup.
Yeah.
But I don't think Tide himself, it creates a problem, or liquid detergent does not create a problem in our treatment plant. Toilet bowl cleaner, I'm not sure, but detergents are not a problem. Detergents are not a problem. We get that in our wastewater treatment plants every day. And I'm not sure about toilet bowl cleaner. I don't think I don't think that's a problem. So I think that answers all the questions that we have, and I don't see any raised hands. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Habib. Thank you, Genesis, for a great virtual tour of the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility. I always learn something from these tours. And Genesis, Habib, would you like to have the closing words or this morning? Go for it.
Genesis, I think you did a great job. Just want to
Oh,
let you know. This
Oh,
was-
no, stop it. Okay. Thank you,
Awesome.
Habib. Habib's our true expert. So again, if you have any source separated food waste, if you have a business or you work for a city and you're trying to, come up with ways or methods, or if you want to know where to take it, you can definitely take it to one of our facilities. And Habib is the man, not the trash man. He's the recyclables man. So call him at the number below. Oh, okay. Someone wants me to answer the question of the weirdest piece of trash. See, you don't want me to answer that. No, I'm kidding. No, it's just, just trash. There's a lot. You see all kinds of different kinds of trash. I think for me, the craziest thing, you know what? Okay, the weirdest, not weirdest, but just craziest that had like my mouth drop was when I saw all the food waste. Yeah, when I saw all the food waste and I literally walked up to it, I was just blown away. And you can see it in the pictures. I don't know if the pictures do it justice, but that was the most like blown away factor that I've been. It wasn't weird though. But anyway, thank you everyone. I hope you can join us on the next one, and we'll
It'll
see
be
you.
December 18th. We'll have a tour of the Valencia Water Reclamation Plant. And hopefully in January, Habib could come back because he kind of hinted that there will be changes at the Puente Hills Material Recovery Facility, right? Where we're going to be able to take even more food waste, separate food waste from green waste. So
Correct.
December 18th, Valencia, and then Habib is hinting out, I guess, that there'll be a premiere of a new program, hopefully in January.
We will definitely be back. And remember, household hazardous waste items to dispose of all your toxic trash, and no peanut butter in your jars. Clean them up before you put them in the recycle bin, please, people. And that's it. Just recycle. Thank you so much. And we'll
Thank
see
you,
you on the next
everyone.
one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.